Our adventurers returned to town, battered and bruised from their encounter in the woods. They carried with them the precious golden girasol, a rare flower, and Marriam's saving grace. Their first stop was Bloomin' Billows, where Bonnie Fangs, despite her usual pipeweed-induced haze, managed to concoct the Dawn extract potion. As payment for her services, she handed them a list of reagents to gather for her during their expeditions into the woods. Next, they arrived at the Church of Embers, where Edgar was embroiled in a heated argument with Laramina, demanding to see Marriam. Laramina, outwardly distrustful of Edgar and his bombastic antics, didn't want to let him through to see Marriam, afraid that he would do more harm than good. The adventurers intervened, convincing Laramina of Edgar's sincerity and the potential cure the Dawn extract offered. Laramina eventually relented, leading them to Marriam, who lay beneath the church catacombs on the brink of death. Her body was weak and frail, displaying symptoms of severe withdrawal, violent shakes, uncontrollable sweating, and scratches all over her arms. She could barely speak from the damage to her vocal cords caused by the screaming and vomiting. In a rare display of compassion, Striza cast prestidigitation, cleansing Marriam. Edgar administered the potion, and after a few tense minutes, Marriam began to stir. Laramina was relieved, and Edgar elated. But the adventurers chastised Marriam for her reckless behavior. Still frail from her symptoms, she vehemently denied using the white powder called Shine, claiming she had been off it for months. Talos believed her, though her status as an addict left much room for doubt. As the party pressed further, Marriam recounted her last memories. A visit to her friend, Valindra Thimbledrum, the town librarian, who, according to her, had been displaying strange and erratic behavior as of late. Edgar's unrequited love aside, Valindra was one of the few who had always shown her kindness, treating her like family despite her addiction and homelessness. Marriam mentioned their regular Tuesday meetings to discuss books had ceased, and she began to avoid her regularly. The last thing Marriam remembered was going to see Valindra and then waking up from a drug-induced stupor. Laramina suggested Marriam stay at the church to recover, and Edgar, true to his word, promised to take the party to his hideout the next morning. They retired to the Misthaven Inn, feeling stronger from their experiences. That night, Zed sensed an eerie presence watching over him. Regmir, awakened by a similar feeling, discovered a hooded figure in his room. The intruder swiftly jumped out of the window, fleeing via the rooftops of the city. Regmir gave chase, nearly catching them before they vanished through the west gate. Before losing sight of the hooded figure, Regmir had noticed them reach into their robes and clutch something in their hands. The following morning, the party gathered downstairs. Regmir recounted his encounter, and Zed shared his eerie experience. Zaphod awoke eager to train and explore his newfound powers, while Striza's crystalline shards glowed brighter, his chest feeling fuller. As they headed to meet Edgar at the church, they noticed a press release on the notice board. King Albion VIII of Geldenstad was gravely ill, with foul play suspected. This news, coupled with Prince Albrecht's year-long disappearance, hinted at turmoil within the royal family. At the church, they found Edgar waiting. They checked on Marriam, who was now doing much better. She expressed her gratitude and recalled more details. Valindra had agreed to meet after weeks of avoidance, but something felt off when she failed to quote her favorite book, 50 Shades of Gay, a self-help tome. Valindra had been acting strangely, and their last argument in the library's back room was the final thing Marriam could recall. The party inquired as to how they can access this back room, and Marriam revealed that by pulling a silver book on the back wall in row 37 AC, a secret door opens. Zed inquired if she saw any jewelry in the back room, to which she replied she saw something gold on the table. Along with parchment and manuscripts, Valindra quickly covered up. Armed with this new information, the party followed Edgar to the Northwoods. Talos, pausing at the Einwald ruins, used his powers of eldritch sight to decipher an ancient poem about a once-beloved giant king whose hubris damned his people. Known as the Faceless King, he ruled over Leamonde, the Crystal City. According to the poem, his pride led to the downfall of his lineage and his kingdom. Reaching Edgar's hideout, he revealed a cache of treasures, a headband of intellect, a suit of splint mail from his Geldenstadt army days, and a wand of the war mage, which he won in a duel after deflowering a Magus's cleric apprentice, causing her to lose her divine connection. He also gave them a miniature sword the size of a finger that, when clicked twice, expanded into a life-sized longsword. After scouting the location for their meeting tomorrow with Vermalek's men, they returned to town. On their way, they caught wind of Vermalek pestering Rory Red Ribbons. When asked, Rory said he was trying to squeeze her for information, but she didn't relent. From here, Zed, Talos and Regmir went to meet the Oakvast brothers to follow up on the permitting issue for Leramina, while the Dragonborn chose to stop by and see the farmer Bongiovina and his daughter. The trio entered the Woozy Wench, a seedy tavern filled with miners, farmers and lumberjacks. They met Ringo, a dwarf drinking heavily at the bar, who informed them they had to order drinks from Sundance. A massive 6'1" heavyset woman, Sundance, made her presence known with her rolls brushing against Regmir and Ringo. She took a liking to the party and pestered them with her sexual advances. Ringo was appalled by her presence. Laura, her much slimmer but perpetually grumpy sister, intervened and asked Sundance to leave the adventurers alone. Zed jokingly jumped on Laura's back, nearly getting himself kicked out. However, he managed to strike a deal with her. 5 gold every night he plays, as the Woozy Wench's local bard hadn't been around for a while, and the Valtech music box just wasn't cutting it. After a lively performance, Laura agreed to take them to the back room to meet the Oakvast brothers. The VIP area was much nicer. Beaded curtains revealed a clean environment with a relaxing atmosphere, and a smell of ambrosia filled the air. From behind lavish oak doors, the 2 brothers could be heard arguing. Laura introduced the party to the brothers, Ingo and Torsten Oakvast. The dwarven siblings beckoned Zed to play them something. Zed's first song did not impress them, but his second performance, a cover of Sir Dafticus Punk, reminded them of their favorite artist, Klanggarden, and won their favor. The brothers took an interest in the adventurers, learning they were the contractors hired by the Count. Torsten mentioned they could use the adventurers' help with a problem in the mine. Ingo, however, urged patience and caution, not wanting to risk their safety. Torsten stormed off, frustrated with his brother's reluctance. Ingo briefly explained the issue. An inspector had died in the mine, operations were halted, and they needed to inspect the mine for integrity before resuming. Talos offered the party's help, but Ingo insisted they not worry about it. When they inquired about the permitting issues for the church, Ingo relented and promised to see what he could do. Talos suggested they help Torsten, but Ingo directed them to assist with another matter: 4 lumberjacks missing in the West Woods. Workers in the area reported strange clicking sounds. Ingo told them to meet with the foreman, Ringo. Realizing his foreman was boozing on the clock, Ingo bolted out of the room to salvage the situation. Meanwhile, the Dragonborn arrived at Bongiovina's farm, greeted by Mackie and Bongiovina, who was in a much better mood. They were invited in for a drink and to meet his wife, Miss Piggy. To their horror, Miss Piggy was actually a man with a massive hog in her pants. Uneasy, the Dragonborn didn't linger long, but offered their services to the farmer. Bongiovina requested they collect wild bloomleaf, known as bloomleaf figs, for grafting and planting. He offered 3 gold per fig, or in exchange for full-grown bloomleaf. Reuniting, the party prepared for their next steps, ready to face the challenges ahead with newfound strength and resolve.